One of the biggest reasons that my first depressive episode lasted the better part of a decade is because I did not want to do anything to change my situation or better myself. I know that probably sounds really weird. I don't mean it in quite the way it sounds. It's not that I wanted to be depressed or didn't want to get better or didn't want to feel differently. There was literally nothing I wanted more out of life than that. I simply did not believe it was possible. And I felt like at the time, every piece of data available to me suggested that no matter what I did, things were going to go in the opposite direction. I essentially viewed myself and my life as a depreciating asset. So if you were a stock market investor and someone said, hey, you should invest in this company, and you look at their graph, I don't know what the technical term for it is, and it's just going down and down and down and losing value every single day, that probably doesn't seem like a company you want to invest your money in, right? I knew that in order to change, I had to invest my time and energy into myself and into my life, but I did not view myself and my life as things that were worthy of investing my time and energy into. I would much rather have put them into things, and I did put them into things that at least for a moment made me feel kind of good, or even just made me feel less bad. Sometimes I was willing to settle for that. And I felt like putting that on me instead and trying to make changes or make improvements was just going to be the equivalent of like throwing it into a black hole instead of into something that, at least for these little acute moments, these little periods of my time, gave me just a little bit of relief from this constant downward spiral that I was on. Obviously, that is not the entire story of my life, and I did at some point decide to change that. But I want to tell you how I did that, not how behaviorally. I've talked about that in other videos, what the actual action steps are. Today, I want to talk more about the psychology and motivation and framework behind that, because I think a lot of you probably already know the actual action steps that in theory would help, but are maybe struggling with some of the same thoughts and feelings and beliefs that I was. That like there's just something different about me, that this is not going to work for me. And I want to address that. I used a financial metaphor to get us started here. I was talking about a stock going down, right? A company's value going down. That was very on purpose because in the world of finances, there is something called an angel investor. And an angel investor is typically a high net worth individual who puts a lot of money into either new companies or struggling companies, companies that without this person or this organization's help are not going to make it, and basically tries to turn them around. And I had no idea what that was at the time, but that's essentially what I was looking for. I spent a decade thinking I was going to find my answer, my reason for feeling like I was worth it, or for feeling like my life was worth investing into, generally in another person. Usually I thought if I met the right person romantically, or maybe as a friend even, if I just had somebody in my life who made all of this pain and suffering feel worthwhile, that would give me the reason and the motivation to better myself and actually work on these things. And that's what I spent the majority of my time and energy on, was seeking that kind of metaphorical angel investor externally and looking for that person or that reason to finally make me feel like, okay, I can do this. I did not find that. And I eventually gave up on that pursuit. And it was out of nothing more than morbid curiosity that I decided to just see what would happen if I just tried to make things a little bit better. I legitimately had no expectations. And if that's where you're at, I think that's okay. That may not be something you can change. I'm not asking you to be super gung-ho about yourself, and after you finish watching this video, to say, I'm awesome, I'm great, I know I can do this, I know I can turn this around. If all you have is like, I just want to see what the heck happens, like I've never really tried this, let's just see what it does. It's probably going to be a disaster, but I should probably try it at least once before I give up on my life. That's essentially where I was at. I did not think, oh, I figured this out, I've got it now. But I basically decided to become my own angel investor, because clearly no one else was going to do it. And why would they? Like, again, if I'm looking at myself and I'm like, I wouldn't invest in that, well, how am I going to expect someone else to? It's not a realistic thing to do, right? So it was literally just, I just want to know what's going to happen. that I decided to start taking some of the steps that I'd heard a million times, and you've probably heard a million times too, might actually make a difference. And this, the best way I can summarize it is the only way, if you relate to what I'm saying so far, this kind of sounds like you, there is only one way out. And that is to engage with the life that you have and to not wait for it to become the life you want. Because that's what I was doing. I was like, when things start to get better, when I see signs of hope or optimism or recovery, when I get at least, just the tiniest sense of like this could get better, oh, then I'll be all in. Then that's when I'll invest. Then I'll take that leap of faith once I've seen just a kernel of reason to believe it could happen. And I waited 10 years to see that. And it never happened. I did not get that. I did not have one little moment where the world was like, here, here's that little breadcrumb you've been looking for this whole time. It did not come. I would have been waiting. I'm 41 now. I'd still be waiting for it. I don't think that would have happened. You have to engage with the life you have and not wait for the life you have to become the life you want to have before you engage with it and before you invest in it. Because you're waiting for magic. That's what you're doing. Let's just be honest. You are hoping that some spontaneous change occurs and suddenly you feel like you have enough of what you want to keep going and to keep investing and to keep creating. That's going to come from you. That is hard to hear, I know, because if you're anything like I was in the depths of my despair, you don't see yourself as someone capable of doing that. You don't want it in your hands. You want it in someone else's hands because you don't trust yourself and you don't believe in yourself. And I'm not necessarily saying you should trust or believe in yourself. Those are lofty goals to be sure, and we're all flawed individuals. But you're waiting for something that isn't going to happen. And the only way you can get that little spark that you're looking for is if you create it, is if you start to act basically on faith, because there's no guarantees in this world. But if you start to just act a little bit on faith, or maybe faith is too much, morbid curiosity. If that's your ceiling, use that. That is enough to do what I'm talking about. And just start to put a little bit of that time and energy that you put into your escapes and into your exit plans, if you just start to put that back into you, that might be what gives you that teeny tiny little spark that makes you feel like maybe it's worth taking the next step. Maybe it is worth actually engaging with my life and not just looking at everything in it and saying, well, this sucks and I hate it and it's not enough. And until that changes, I will not take action. Because that change is supposed to come from you. That action has to be taken by you. And I wish I knew a way around this. I really wish I did. I would teach it to you if I do. I don't know one. I don't know that there is one. There's always going to be this awkward period where you're working hard and you're investing time and you're investing energy and nothing is happening. Nothing is changing. Nothing is being accomplished. And honestly, almost everything in life is like that. My YouTube channel was like that. I don't think I've said this on here before. So I started this channel in January of 2023. And by June of 2023, I had, I don't remember for sure, maybe 150 subscribers, which is actually not bad for 6 months. And I was making one video a month. So I was I had maybe 40, 50 videos at that point. And I'd spent, 100 hours on it, obviously not monetized, getting maybe like one comment per day, 4 out of 5 positive, 1 troll. And it was not feeling worth it to me. I was feeling this tremendous discrepancy between what I was putting in and what I was getting out. And I actually, in July, summer of 2023, I legitimately considered quitting this whole thing because it didn't seem like anything was happening. I was in that awkward phase that also happens in life and probably happens in every major endeavor that you're ever going to undertake, where you're working really hard and nothing is happening. It takes faith and patience and a lot of durability, for lack of a better term, to weather that storm, because that storm is going to happen. This isn't going to be a quick fix. This isn't going to be something that overnight changes your life. you have to be willing to see that through to the other side. There's no other way. And it's the same, by the way, I'm talking about your life, right? Like if you don't like your life, same general principle with the world in general. Because that was my other problem is I'm like, even if I decide that I like myself and my life, which I don't, I have to live my life in this world that I also don't particularly like. I was like, well, if the world was a better place, I'd want to be here and I'd want to do stuff, but it's not. It sucks. So why should I want to? Well, what's your plan for that? Like it's not going to change. I used to think, I'm not going to lie to you about this. I used to think that was just my depression talking. Like not at first. At first I was like, no, this actually does suck. But then when I started to feel a little bit better, when I kind of started when I started taking this leap of faith, I thought maybe I only thought the world sucked because I was depressed. I am now mostly not depressed. Very rarely do I experience significant depressive symptoms at this point in my life. My perspective on the world hasn't changed a ton, to be honest with you. That may not be a symptom of depression. That might just be you kind of looking out there, seeing what's out there, and being like, you know what? It's not the best. Granted, I don't know what we're comparing it to because there's only one. I guess we're comparing it to what? Fictional worlds and media or fantasies in our minds of what we think it should be. I mean, there is no there's no basis of comparison for it to be better or worse than anything else. I don't find it a particularly enjoyable place to be much of the time, but that's not going to change. In fact, I think it's going the opposite direction, frankly. This is a great pep talk, isn't it? Aren't you glad that you listen to such a positive and optimistic mental health YouTuber slash podcaster? But that's still how I feel. And so literally, if I was waiting for the world to become a better place before I decided to try to like make a little teeny corner of it where I felt kind of halfway comfortable, I'd be waiting today. And I'd be feeling much worse about, like, I think it was better in the 90s, to be honest with you. I would be feeling much worse about my prospects today. You're going to wait forever. You're waiting for something that's never going to come. If you're waiting for spontaneous improvement in your life or spontaneous improvement in the world, you've got to find those or create them, one of the two. You have to be the person who locates your angel investor. You have to be the angel investor. And you got to be willing to know that it's going to feel like nothing at first. Like the first day you decide to do this, you're not going to wake up the next day like, oh my gosh, I'm on the right track. It's getting better. This is awesome. It's going to be a while, friend. It is. And you're going to question it every day. You're going to wonder, why the heck am I doing this? It was easier before. It was better before. At least I had those little moments, those little escapes before. Now I have nothing because I'm just putting it into trying to making these changes that I don't know if they will accomplish anything. But then at some point, I don't know when, different timeline for everybody, but at some point, you're going to feel it. Just a little, you're going to feel like this teeny little spark of like, is that even real? Is something happening here? Is something changing here? And if you, this is hard, okay, I know. Don't over evaluate the spark because when you start thinking about it and questioning it, like, is it even real or is it going to last? That tends to extinguish it. So I know it's hard to finally maybe feel or see the thing that you've been wanting and waiting for so long. And essentially, you have to kind of try to ignore it. I know how hard that is. But if you pay too much attention to it, you can think yourself out of it. And that can, excuse me, that can keep you in basically like an infinite feedback loop. So rather than getting hyperfixated on it, I'm going to say when, my one and only optimistic statement to you today, when you start to feel it, rather than trying to hyperfixate on its existence, just fixate on the behaviors. Just keep doing the things that you've been doing that created it. And that's how you grow it. And at some point, that spark becomes a big enough flame that all this effort actually starts to feel worth it and actually starts to pay off. But I've never heard anyone talk about that awkward, thankless, hopeless period in between. It's always just do this and these things get better. Yes, but like there's this bridge we have to cross and it's a terrifying, rickety bridge missing a bunch of bridge pieces. Terminology is not my strong suit. I'm not an engineer. You know what I'm talking about. You got to cross it. You just got to cross it. Until you do, nothing changes. So I hope that this helps you take that leap of faith and start to invest in yourself, because otherwise you're just going to be waiting forever. Take care. I'll talk to you soon.